Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. I hope that you're doing well. Welcome to another video and welcome back to another check-in video. Today we're going to be talking about all of the series that I am torturing myself with. And I say that in the best way possible. I've just started way too many series and I definitely need to finish it. It is what I like to call the series epidemic. It's a problem. And I'm hoping that this video will help me rectify it because it will put some things into perspective. But let me tell you, it's been a time. I've already filmed this video. All 40 minutes of it. I recorded it in slow-mo. I love that for me. So, this is probably going to be a much faster video because I don't want to do it anymore. This is now the second time that's happened to me recently and I'm just over it. I'm over it. But it's okay. We're gonna make it through. So, today I'm going to be talking about all of the book series that I have finished, DNF'd, I'm up to date with, and all the series that I still need to finish. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, the first series that we're going to talk about today is one of my favorites, if not my favorite series of all time, and that is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, of course. I'm really proud of myself for finally finishing this series. It took me a little while, but it is done. I read all the way through to A Court of Silver Flames, and I absolutely loved it. Highly recommend, and if you're asking me, I think it is 100% worth the hype. Alright, then we have The Infernal Devices by Cassandra Clare. This is the first series that I'm reading in chronological order. I can talk, right? In chronological order, and the next one I have to read is The Last Hours trilogy, which I'm very, very excited for, but I'm really glad that I read this one. It wasn't my favorite series. I know that people are diehard for this series, but I did really love it. I really loved the characters. I really loved the story arc. I think it was really well done, and I'm really excited to move on with more of Cassie Clare's work. Alright, then we have The Folk of the Air series by Holly Black. Again, a series that I didn't absolutely 100% love, but I still really, really enjoyed it. I did end up buying the, I originally started off with the Barnes & Noble exclusive editions, so I have a hard time getting rid of these, even though I don't think that I'm going to reread them, but I still really like this trilogy nonetheless. Up next is a trilogy that I absolutely die for, and that is the Brown Sister series by Talia Hibbert. As you can see, these are the Illumicrate special editions, all hardcover, all sprayed edges, all signed. That's how much I love this series that I gave up my first set just to buy these ones. I love this romance series. It's probably one of my favorite traditionally published romance series. So well done. Highly recommend. Then we have The Wrath of the Dawn by Renee Audier. I did really enjoy this one. I didn't love the second book, but I did really enjoy the first book. It is a duology, so it was a quick and easy time to get around to finishing this one. And it was a really, really good time. I buddy read this with my friend Caitlin. I will link her channel down below, show her some love. But it was such a good book series, and I definitely need to reread this one soon because it's been a little while. Up next is a series that I absolutely love, probably one of my favorite fantasy/sci-fi series that I've ever read, and that is the Renegade series by Marissa Meyer. This book series is so good. If you haven't already picked this up, I highly implore you to do so. It is chef's kiss amazing, and the ending of this book series, if you know, you know, you need to read it. Okay, up next is a series that I didn't absolutely love in its entirety, but I still highly recommend it, and that is the Curse Breaker series by Bridget Kemmerer, the first one being A Curse of Dark and Lonely. I loved the first book. I didn't necessarily love the second book, and the trilogy ended out well, in my opinion. It's just not my favorite fantasy series that I've ever read, but if you're looking for a good time, a fast-paced series, then I highly recommend this one. It was a good time all in all. Another romance series that I love so much and absolutely binged, and that is the Crossfire series by Sylvia Day. I was not expecting to love this series as much as I did, but I blew through these. I literally read all 5 books, I think in like 4 or 5 days. I blew through these. It is so good. It kept me up at night. I cannot wait to reread it. Such a good time. Then we have a series that I no longer own, and that is the All the Stars and Teeth duology by Adeline Grace. I didn't love the first book, but the second book was a little bit better, which is the reason why I didn't end up keeping the series. I just don't see myself rereading it. But overall, it was still a good duology. I do recommend it if you like nautical-themed fantasies. It was good in that aspect. It just wasn't my favorite. Then we have the Off-Campus series by Elle Kennedy. I absolutely love this new adult companion novel series. It is so good. It's a sports romance series. It is literally amazing. There is also a spin-off series to the series that I also really enjoy, and I'm so sad that it's over, but I'm glad that I'm now getting myself physical copies so I can reread them because they are really, really good. Another very, very smutty series that I absolutely adore so much that I'm currently in a reread process, and that is the Madison Kate series by Tate James. Oh my god, I love this series so much. As you can see, I recently reread this and I fucking loved it. It's so good. It's a reverse harem series. There's definitely a lot of trigger warnings in here, so go in there with some caution, but it is so good. It's so bingeable. It's so freaking good. Highly, highly recommend. And the last series that I have finished and that is the Rock Hard Beautiful series. I don't remember the author of this one, but it is a trilogy. It is also reverse harem. This one follows 5 guys and 1 girl, and it is chef's kiss, amazing. This one definitely has more trigger warnings than the previous one that I just talked about, so go in there with some caution, but oh my god, it's so good. It is so good. It is so good. So that makes 12 series that I finished this year, which is definitely better than I did last year. Last year, by this time, I think that I had finished around 4 or 5 series, so finishing 12 this time around is not too bad. I will take the win for that one. Okay, up next are the series that I'm currently up to date with, meaning that I have read all of the books that are currently published and I'm able to pick up and read. Some of these sequels are coming out very, very soon, so eventually they will go back into my need to read pile, but until then, we will just revel in the fact that I am somewhat done with these. The first one that I have here is, of course, House of Earth and Blood, the first book in the Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas. Y'all know my love for this book, so I'm not going to gush about it, but I am really excited because book 2 comes out at the beginning of 2022. I'm screaming inside and outside. It's amazing. I can't wait. Then we have the Trials of Morgan Crow, the Nevermore series by Jessica Townsend. I absolutely love this middle grade. It is so, so amazing. Chef's kiss, beautifully well done. I cannot wait for book 4. Then this is one that I've actually recently finished up, and that is Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nien. This was originally supposed to be a duology and is now being turned into a trilogy, so I'm still waiting on book 3 to come out. I didn't love book 2, but I'm hoping that book 3 is a little bit better. I think after changing it around to be a trilogy instead of a duology definitely showed in this book, but hopefully book 3 will pull it into a close for me. Another book that is coming out with a sequel very, very soon, and that is Where Dreams Ascend. This is the first book in the Kingdom Cards series by Janelle Angelis. I love this book so, so much. I actually had the wonderful opportunity of talking with the author, Janelle Angelis, for the last season-a-thon that we did with Mel and Clint, and it was such a blast. She's such a wholesome, wonderful, creative, beautiful person, and so I'm really excited for book 2. The cliffhanger in this one, I need book 2 like yesterday, so please and thank you. I will be reading this one, hopefully, right as it comes out. Another one that I absolutely need the sequel like yesterday is Legendborn by Tracy Dion. Please, 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 just give me the sequel because I had so many questions by the end of this and I need answers. Thank you very much. One that I'm a little bit apprehensive about for the second book, and that is These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. I didn't love the first book, and I don't know if the hype is really there for me when it comes to this one, but I am intrigued by book 2 and hopefully it'll be better than book 1. I didn't hate this book by any means. It just wasn't my favorite book that I've ever read. Another one that I am so excited for the sequel of, so excited, and I've actually talked to a friend of the author, and book 2 is written and ready, and I'm really excited for it, so hopefully it comes out soon, and that is The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. Y'all, loved this book so much. It is a wonderful African-inspired fantasy, so well done. Twists and turns in this book, and I've heard that book 2 is even more twisty-turny, so I'm ready. Oh, another book that I really, really enjoyed, and that is A Dark and Hollow Star by Ashley Shuttleworth. I loved this book so much. It definitely gave me Sarah J. Maas vibes, which, if you guys know, coming from me, that is a big deal. I really enjoyed it. I am excited for book 2. Hopefully book 2 will be coming out soon. This is very, very gay, which is amazing. It has queer written all over it, and I loved every minute of it. Speaking of gay, I didn't know this was going to be a series, but I'm glad that it is, and that is Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. This is a male-male romance that definitely gives me red, white, and royal blue vibes, so if you liked that one, you'll love this one, and I believe that we're getting 2 more books in this series, at least, I hope. So I'm excited for it. And that is all 9 books that I'm currently up to date with, so 21 books that are technically finished and up to date. That's not too bad. I would say that that is pretty good. I'll take it. But now to, go back down to a little bit more of a negative note, let's talk about the 7 series that I decided to DNF. Some of these I finished, some of these books, the first books I DNF'd, which is why I'm not continuing on with the series, but I figured I would share them with you regardless. The first one is Happily Ever Afters by Elise Bryant. I did finish this book and I didn't like it. I didn't like it. It was a YA contemporary romance with a lack of romance, and it just wasn't everything that I wanted it to be, so I said bye-bye. Okay, the next one is one that I didn't know it was supposed to be a series, but apparently according to Goodreads, it is. And that is the Rolling in the Deep series, the first one being Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant, aka Shauna McGuire. I just didn't love this book, unfortunately. I DNF'd it at, I think, about 100 pages in. It was just too scientific-y for my tastes and my liking, unfortunately. But I've heard the people that finished it really enjoyed it, so take that as you will. Next one is one that I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for in the comments. Please don't crucify me. I'm sorry. But as Check Please, I just didn't like this graphic novel. I DNF'd it. It wasn't for me. I just don't think the writing style was my taste. I'm so sorry. Clint is going to be so sad because he absolutely loves this graphic novel, but it just wasn't my cup of tea, and so I DNF'd it. Up next is a book that I actually finished, and that is Lady of Devices by Shelley something. I will put it up on the screen, of course. This was a historical fiction steampunk book, and if y'all know, you know that is not up my alley in any way, shape, or form, so I will not be continuing with the series. I did finish it. I didn't love it, but I read it, so there you go. Next up is another book that I DNF'd, and that is the first book in the Seven Realms series by Cinda Williams-Chima, and that is The Demon King, I believe. I gave up at page 40. It just wasn't for me. I didn't like the writing style. I didn't like the plot. It just wasn't gripping me. It wasn't pulling me in. So these are some big chunky books as well. So I didn't want to dedicate time to the book series, and I didn't think that I was going to enjoy. So I let this one go. All right, then we have the Born and Blood Mafia books. I read the first book in this series. It is a dark mafia romance. I just didn't quite love it. I felt that the character was a little bit too spineless for me. I like my heroines to have a little bit more oomph and fight in them, and this just wasn't the story for me. I didn't know it was a series going in, and now that I do, I know that I will not be continuing it. And finally, the last book that I DNF'd was the Charlie Travesty series. It's actually a serial. This is by Jesse Elliott and KJ Sutton. I wasn't intrigued. I wasn't pulled in. I was 75% into the first part of this serial, and I was bored, y'all. I was bored out of my mind. It was supposed to be like a really smutty, sexy book, and there was no angst, there was no sex, there was no smut, there was no nothing. And I was just, I was bored. So at 75%, I said, peace out. And those are all 7 of the series that I DNF'd. Let's go ahead and jump into the 48. Oh yeah, you heard me right. I said 48 series that I'm currently in the middle of. Send help. Thank you. Bye-bye. I'm going to literally breeze past these ones because we have a lot to talk about. But the first one we have here is Nocturna by Maya Motain. I really love the first book. I own the second book. I just haven't read it yet. Up next, we have The Last Magician by Lisa Maxwell. I did read books 1 and 2. I just haven't read book 3 yet. I do own it. It's a chunky book. But I didn't love book 2, so I've been a little bit more apprehensive to pick up book 3, but I definitely would do it soon. This next one is a little bit weird, but I have Heartstopper on this list because technically it has not been published in the US yet. It's been published in the UK, but I'm technically waiting to read them until it comes out in the US editions. So that's that. I will eventually get around to finishing out the series, hopefully this year, but it does come out in December, so we shall see. But I am really excited. I love the series so much, and I need book 4, now. All right, then we have Nevernight by Jay Kristoff. I just need one more book in this series to read, and then I will be done. I definitely want to read it. I just haven't picked it up, so I will get around to it eventually. That is my motto for everything. Eventually, I'll get around to it. I need to, but I just haven't yet. Then we have The Simonverse by Becky Apatali. I have read 2 books in this series. I own 1 more, and I still need to buy and read 1 more. So I have 2 more left in this series to read. I like this series so far. They're quick, easy, YA contemporary romances. I just haven't picked them up yet, so it is what it is. Next up, we have another series that I'm rereading from my childhood, and that is the House of Night series. This is book 3. I've already read books 1 and 2, but I've unhauled them already. So book 3 is the next one in line that I need to read. This is a very large series. I think there's 12 or 13 books that are in this series, so I have plenty I still need to read, but I just haven't been motivated to pick it back up. It's not my favorite reread that I've ever done, so I'll get around to it, but it's not high on my priority list. Another one that's not very high on my priority list, and that is the Shatter Me series. I did unhaul book 1. I don't actually know if this is book 2, but this was the only other paperback that I owned, so this is the one that I grabbed. I want to read this series at some point, but again, it's not high on my priority list. I didn't absolutely love book 1. It's not my favorite book of all time, but I do want to finish out the series at some point, so eventually I'll get around to them, but until then, they're just going to sit there and wait for me. All right, one that I am severely disappointed in myself for not having finished, and that is the Percy Jackson series by Rick Riordan. I started this book series as my reread back in April of 2020 when I was doing my 24-hour readathon, and then I just never picked up book 4 and 5. I only have 2 more books in the series, and they're not that large. They kind of look chunky because they're short and stout, but really, they would not take me that long to read. Yet have I finished them? No. Another one that I've had on my list for quite some time, and that is the Me Before You series by Jojo Moyes. I really loved book 1. I've heard that books 2 and 3 are so good. I just haven't read them yet. I do own them, but I haven't read them. Moving on. Up next, we have the Thalanian Dynasty series. This is by Katie Robert. I read the first little novella in this polyamorous relationship smutty book series way back in 2020, the beginning of 2020, and I really enjoyed it. I just haven't yet continued on with the series. I own book 1. Technically, the first one that I read was like 0.5. I still need to read the first book in the series. I just haven't gotten around to it. I'm intrigued by it because I do like a good polyamorous relationship, a good smutty book like that, but I just haven't. So there you go. The next one, I don't even want to show you because I'm still ashamed by this one. And so I'm just going to do a quick little, yeah, fake fan, I know. Up next, we have the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb, the first book in one of many of her series in this world. I read book 1 in April of 2020, and I liked it. I didn't love it, but now that I've read a little bit more adult fantasy, I feel like I can like the series a little bit more, and so I want to go back to it. I just recently picked up book 2, so hopefully I can get around to the series again soon. Then we have the Wayward Children series by Shauna Maguire. I have read 3 books in the series. I'm about to read book 4 this month, so hopefully I can get around to books 5 and 6 very soon. They are short little novellas. It shouldn't take me too long, but alas, here we are. Up next is a book series that I don't own. I did read the first book physically, but I just unhauled it, and I will read the rest of them on ebook or something. But that is the Once Upon a Con series by Ashley Poston. The first one was Geekerella, and I really enjoyed that book, so I do want to continue on with the companion novel series. I've heard they're really good. I just haven't picked them up recently. I find that if I don't own them, I'm less likely to pick them up, but I still want to finish out the series, so I'm kind of like struggling here. We'll get to it eventually. Up next is Fallen by Lauren Kate. I, again, unhauled the first book in the series because I don't see myself keeping these ones after I do my reread. I did read these ones in high school, and I did enjoy my experience when I read them at that time, but when I read the first book, I was not overly impressed, so I haven't been compelled to pick up book 2, but I will get around to rereading this eventually, just not right now. Again, another one that I don't own, which is Anna and the French Kiss. This is by Stephanie Perkins. I did at some point own the first book, but again, I'm not going to reread them once I read them now. I did read these again when I was in high school, but I don't think I've ever read the second book. I read books 1 and book 3, but I just need to read book 2 and I will be done with the series. I really should just get around to reading them because they're very quick and easy, but again, I don't own it, so I haven't been compelled to pick it up. Okay, then we have the Lunar Chronicles by Stephanie Meyer. I love Stephanie Meyer, and I like this series a lot. I just haven't picked up book 3. I read books 1 and 2 last year, and I do need to read Cress, I believe is the next one that I need to read, but the books are chunky, and I haven't been convinced, okay? That's all. Okay, up next we have Scythe by Neil Schusterman. This is one that I am on the fence about. Not really. I know I'm going to finish the series, but I loved book 1. Look at those tabs. Holy shit. I loved book 1. I did not like book 2. I was very disappointed by it, especially because I loved book 1. I gave book 1 a 5-star. I gave book 2 a 3-star. And I've heard that the trilogy does not end very well. So I'm apprehensive to finish out the trilogy. I know that I will because I want to see how it ends. But I'm not excited, you know? I'm not gung-ho. I'll finish it. I just don't know when. Okay, and then we have Paper Girls. This is the first volume. I own volumes 2. Just volume 2. I do need to get around to finishing this series. I did really like it. It's a sci-fi graphic novel that I really enjoyed. I just haven't picked up the next one yet. A book series that I absolutely love, and that is the Black Dagger Brotherhood series by J.R. Ward. I don't own the first book. I believe this is book 2, but I'm really excited to continue on with the series. This is an 18-book series. I said it. I believe she is already set to write books 19 and 20, so I still have a long way to go. I still need to read book 5. So I have a good chunk of books still to read, and I now own a ton of them, but I just haven't gotten around to reading book 5 yet, but when I do, I'm going to be very excited. Then we have the Legacy of Orisha series, the first one being Children of Blood and Bone. I don't know if this is a duology or a series. I'm actually not really sure. I do own book 2, and I just haven't gotten around to reading it yet. I liked the first one. I've heard mixed reviews about book 2, so that's made me a little bit apprehensive, but I will finish this out the series eventually. Another graphic novel series that I really enjoyed, and that is Saga. I have read 1 through 3. I own book 4, and I know there are 9 currently published volumes of this one, and I've heard that they're finally breaking their hiatus to come back and write volume 10, so that is very exciting. So I really need to catch up so that I can read volume 10 when it comes out. I do like this series a lot. It is really fun. I think I've given every book in this series so far 5 stars, so highly recommend it if you haven't already read it. Okay, this is another book that I didn't know that I was going to love, but I'm glad that I did, and that is Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. I was very surprised. I'm not a huge sci-fi reader, so when I read this and really enjoyed it, I was highly impressed. I will say that. I like the fact that this is told in mixed media. It makes it much more fun and entertaining to read. So I definitely need to read book 2. I recently just picked that one up, so I will get around to it very soon and hopefully finish out the trilogy, hopefully this year, but I make no promises. Okay, then we have The Series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket. I read this one for a 24-hour readathon that I did a while ago. I read books 1 through 8 at the time, and I haven't picked them back up again. They're very repetitive, but I have heard that the ending of the series is fantastic, so I do want to finish them. I won't be keeping them after that. I want to get them off my shelves for sure, but I am excited to read these, I think, but I just don't know when I'm gonna pick them up. All right, then we have Villains by V.E. Schwab. First one being Vicious. I did really enjoy the first book in this series. I say series because it was originally supposed to be a duology, and I believe now we are getting some more books in this world. So I'm not really sure how I feel about that since I haven't read book 2 yet, but I did love book 1. It was very well done. It was such a fun book. It was so fast paced. I loved the characters. This was the first book that I really read that was morally gray characters other than the Renegade series. But it was just so well done. I'm really excited to get around to book 2. I'll get to it at some point. Okay, I believe this is the last graphic novel that I have to talk about today, and that is Lumberjanes. I read the first book. I own volume 2 and 3, so I still need to read them, but I think this is a 13 or 14 volume series, so I have a lot to catch up on, but I will get there at some point in my lifetime. Cross my fingers. All right, then we have the Divergent series by Veronica Roth. I no longer own book 1 because I don't see myself rereading these after I finish up my reread, but I do want to reread the last 2 books in the series. I really enjoyed my reread of Divergent. I thought it was really well done. I don't really remember books 2 and 3 very much, so I'm excited to get around to these, but again, not super high on my priority list. Rereads never are, but I will get around to them at some point. Then we have the With Me in Seattle series. This is by Kristen Proby. I read books 11 and 12 in the series last year, so way back, and I was definitely way out of order, so I decided to go back and read the series in order. I have read book 1. I still need to read book 2. I believe this is book 7 or 8, and I own one more book in the series that again is out of order, but I'll get around to them eventually. They are quick, easy, smutty adult romance books that I enjoy, so eventually I'll continue with this series, but I haven't decided what a timeline is for these at all. Up next is the Selection series, and I'm kind of on the fence about this one. I don't think that I will continue on with the continuation series of this series just because I didn't love book 1 or book 2, but I feel like I'm so far in that I should just finish out at least the trilogy. I actually couldn't find the 3rd book in the series. I don't know where it is on my shelves. I'll find it eventually, but I just couldn't find it at the time of trying to film this video. So I probably will unhaul the other 2 books at some point, but we'll see. Okay, another series that I am highly disappointed that I haven't finished, and that is the Vale Hall series by Kristen Simmons. I am ashamed. I'm ashamed. And I'm going to say it, I'm ashamed, because I read books 1 and 2 back to back, and then I picked up book 3. I had an arc of it through NetGalley, because Kristen Simmons was very kind enough to send it our way when we had her for a part of the season-a-thon, and then I started it and didn't finish it. So, I don't want to talk about it. Let's move on. All right, up next we have the Shades of Magic series by V.E. Schwab. I read the first book. I still need to read books 2 and 3. I am really excited. I love this series a bunch. I was very impressed by book 1, but I definitely need to pick it up soon before I forget everything that happened in book 1. So, I'll get to it soon, hopefully. I definitely want to finish out the series so that I can read the graphic novel series that I recently picked up. So, let's cross our fingers and hope that I can get to this one soon. Up next, we have the Murderbot Diaries Chronicle. I think that's what it's called. But that is a novella sci-fi series that I read the first book of last year. I enjoyed it. It was a interesting novella. I definitely want to continue on with the series, but I don't own these ones. So again, if I'm not seeing them in front of my face, I'm less compelled to pick them up, but I do want to finish the series at some point. Okay, up next we have the beloved Six of Crows series by Leigh Bardugo. I am in a catch-22 with this series because I really want to finish the Shadow and Bone trilogy before I pick up Crooked Kingdom. However, I haven't been compelled to pick up, what is it, Ruin and Rising? No. Siege and Storm? At all. So, I want to read Crooked Kingdom really badly, but I want to finish up that series first, so I don't really know what I'm doing, but eventually I will read them both and finish them both. The next one that I have here is The Fifth Wave by Rick Yancey. I haven't really decided what I'm doing with this one. I didn't love the first book, but for some reason I picked up the second book, and I figured maybe if I read the second book and I like it, then I can figure out if I want to continue on with the series or not. I don't really know if that's sound logic, but that's what I did. So this is, again, not high on my priority list, but I will try to finish it at some point. Then we have the Bargainer series. I really enjoyed the first book being Rhapsodic. I really enjoyed book 1. I definitely need to continue on with the series. I just haven't had the chance to pick it up, but it was really good. It's fast-paced, paranormal, smutty romance series. Really well done, but I need to read books 2 and 3 still. Another series that I really need to read, and that is the David Vaughn trilogy by S.A. Chakraborty. I have read book 1, I own book 2, I need to get around to it, and I should probably do it soon before I lose all my memory of this book. This book has a lot of world building and political intrigue here, so I really should read it soon, or else I'm going to have to reread book 1, and I really don't want to do that. Then, of course, we just talked about it, Shadow and Bone. I still need to read books 2 and 3. Send help. Then we have the Maze Runner series. Again, I don't own book 1. I am unhauling them as I read them, but I do want to finish out this series at some point. Then we have the Fall Away series by Penelope Douglas. I didn't know this was a series when I picked up the first one. The first book is Bully. I enjoyed it. It's not my favorite Penelope Douglas that I have read, but now learning that it's a series, I definitely would like to read the rest of the books in the series. I don't know when I'm going to get around to these. I have a ton of Penelope Douglas books that I still need to read, so I will chip away with that when I can. I'm sure it won't take me too long because I tend to run back to dark, smutty romances every chance I get, so... Next up, we have the Imperium trilogy by Claire Legrand, the first one being Furyborn. I really enjoyed the first book in this series. I definitely need to move on to book 2. I recently picked up book 2 as well in my most recent haul, so I'm really excited. I definitely need to read it. Again, should probably read it before I need to reread book 1. Let's hope. We'll see. Then we have the very coveted, loved, From Blood and Ash. I didn't love this book. It was compared to many times to Sarah J. Maas, and it really just didn't quite, you know? So I'm going to read books 2 and 3 because I own them. Hopefully they get better, but I have not heard the best things about books 2 and 3. So we'll see. Then we have the Stalking Jack the Ripper series by Carrie Maniscalco. I did like book 1. I didn't love it. But for it being historically set, technically a historical fiction with some thrillery aspects in there, I did really enjoy it. So I've heard that book 2 is really, really good. It's one of Clint's favorite series, so I will definitely get around to book 2 at some point. I just don't know when. Okay, up next we have Cassidy Blake. This is by Victoria Schwab. This is one of her middle grade series. I really loved the first book. I was supposed to read book 2 months ago, but I was in a slump and never got around to picking it up. Eventually I will read this one. I actually own book 3, but we'll see. I'll get around to it at some point. Our last little stack here, we're almost at the end. The next one that I have is The Bromance Book Club by Lisa K. Adams. I really enjoyed the first book in this series. I still need to read books 2 and 3. I do own books 2 and 3. I believe there are 4 books in this series now. I was buddy reading at one point this entire series with a group of friends. However, I fell behind, so I need to read these. But I did really enjoy it, so I'm really excited to get around to the rest of the books in the series. Okay, this book series took me way too long to pick up, but now that I have, I'm obsessed. And that is the Emperor and the Ashes series by Sabatier. I loved books 1 and 2. They were so good, and I need book 3, like, right away. I'm really hoping that I don't wait too long in between these books because I just need to know. I need answers. I have so many questions. I'm really excited. All right, up next we have the Royals companion novel series by Rachel Hawkins. I actually read book 2 before I read book 1, so I do need to, you know, kind of dial back and read book 1. I didn't love Her Royal Highness. It wasn't my favorite LGBTQI plus book that I've read, but it wasn't bad, so I definitely want to go back and read the first one. So yeah, there's that. Up next, we have the Briar U series by Elle Kennedy. This is the spin-off to the Off-Campus series that I talked about earlier. I am now currently 2 books into the series. This is actually book 2. I don't own book 1, unfortunately, but I still need to read 2 more books in the series before I can finish out the series. I love Elle Kennedy's writing. She's so good at just writing some really awesome romances with wonderful character development and just beautiful, sexy, wonderful books. I don't love the Briar U series as much as I love Off Campus, but it's still really fantastic and highly recommend. And finally, the last book that I'm going to talk about is a book that I'm actually currently in the middle of. So once I finish this one, it'll unfortunately go onto my pile of series that I need to finish. And that is Serpent and Dove by Shelby McCurran. I'm actually really enjoying this. I'm about 200 pages in and enjoying it. So I am definitely intrigued enough to pick up book 2 and book 3. I do own book 2. I don't own book 3 just yet, but eventually I want to get around to reading these. Hopefully I can finish it soon because I would like this stack to go down by a lot. So basically what we've learned today is that I need to stop starting series and I need to start finishing them because I have a problem. Yep. So please let me know down below if you guys have read any of these series, if you finished them, what you thought, what series that you really need to finish ASAP. I would love to know that as well. If you made it to the end of this video, leave a flamingo emoji. I don't know if they even have those, but if they do, leave one of those. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to give it a big old thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave. And of course, leave any comments, questions, and suggestions in the comment section below. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.